Do
Starting
it.
it up.
It's already recording.
Oh, snap.
Why Meet the Others podcast? What's this about?
Why are we doing this thing?
Why are we doing this dang thing?
Who the F?
Do we even know what we're doing?
Certainly not.
Oh,
We
no.
just hooked this thing up tonight. We figured out how to use the mics, and now we're recording 10 seconds afterwards. Gives
Word
me
up.
comfort. So,
I hear you.
yeah. So anyways, Meet the Others. That's us.
Still waiting on this car to come and take me home. Things feel a little different now that we grown. Till I turn the ass, so they put my name in stone. Live how I wanna live, cause we die alone.
Hey.
Yo, welcome to Meet the Others podcast. I'm Anissa B.
And I am Choir Boy Dank. And we are here as Meet the Others on our podcast.
Yes, welcome, guys. Welcome. We're glad to have you here. Sorry about the little period of a break. We had some friends on if you watched episode 18, and we were trying to figure out how to edit that correctly. And we're learning. So you get to watch us take our time to edit because
learn and grow.
Exactly.
And get better.
Pretty much.
See the mistakes. I think that it came out pretty dope.
I thought it did too. I mean, I do one thing, he does one thing, I do one thing, he does one thing, and then we kind of put them together and bam, product.
Hey, yo.
So that's what it was.
Yeah, so if you haven't checked out that episode, go give that thing a listen, give it a watch.
Episode 18 with some friends, Zeta Lisa and Sean from Casa de Fez and back in New York, New Jersey.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
go.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
No, that
yes.
was fun. That was a good combo.
Yes.
Yeah,
very
it'll be
good convo.
Good. It'll be good to do it again one day.
I'm hoping to connect with more friends and even have them back on the show as soon as possible. And maybe even when, we start traveling a little bit more, we can also kind of be there in person.
Right.
At their studio, which would be super dope.
Yeah,
right?
that'd be super cool.
Yes.
So what's been going on, honey?
What's been going on? There's a lot going on in my mind, in my head. But one thing that kind of bothered me throughout this weekend was my older son actually kind of brought something to my attention. I do not watch the news because I don't want to listen to bad things happening in the world or anything like that. But my son had brought to my attention this actual situation that happened back in January 7th, 2023 with Tyre Nichols. And it was a situation that had happened during a traffic stop or alleged traffic stop. He was 29 years old, driving in Memphis. And basically, I did not watch it at first, but my son was kind of, giving me a little description. And I just was like, oh, I don't want to. But then I actually decided to take a look just because it was just kind of on my feed. Yeah. And I was like, what is this? Like, because I was seeing little clips from here and there. And I was like, okay, now I need to look into this. And basically, this man was pulled over and pretty much dragged out of his car in fear. And one of the police officers actually had a body cam on him. And you see this young man, actually, like, he's not fighting. He's like, hey, guys, hey, very like cooperative and everything. And these police officers are aggressively pulling him out and putting fear in this man's heart and this man, from what I saw. And what is just so sad is like he ran because he was in fear and scared.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, okay, that's enough for me because I know what's going to happen. Obviously, like it's all over. Yeah, this is what the story is about. But I wanted to really take a look just because, like, I also saw his mother recently, giving a speech, and she said, watch it, but don't watch it with anger. Watch it because, like, to show like this is what happened to my son, and we need to be protesting in peace and all that stuff. And the more I watched it, the more my heart was like out there for him, for his family, for everybody in that situation, because his last moments, he was in such fear, and he tried to cooperate, but yeah, he did run. But it's like, it always puts me in this like weird place, because it's like, he complied to what they, like he was down to, whatever they said.
Yeah.
But how could someone not be afraid when someone's like aggressively like putting them down on the ground, talking about they're gonna break his effing, arm and all these things? And it was just like a really sad situation. And at the end of that, basically, he ended up passing away 3 days later from his injuries. Like these 5 cops, these murderers basically took this man's life, kicking him, punching him, tasing him, pepper spraying him, like. And the footage is so sickening that it even goes on to the idea of after they do all these things to him, there's some another police officer, or I don't even know, it's an officer, uniformed man, is over here talking about how he he pepper sprayed him, and he did this, and he almost like he was proud of himself, and it was just disgusting to watch. And it's always kind of like a balance for me.
Yeah.
Being that my father was a police officer, and I do have siblings that are half Black. And a lot of times that's kind of like what it is. It's like this and that. And there's like, so sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like, but what happened in Memphis in January was inhumane. Like it was like not cool at all. So that's been like super heavy on my mind, and I wanted to come on here and kind of talk about it a little bit more and kind of say Tyre Nichols' name more, just out of respect, because if you watch the footage, it's really, really terrible on how they did him. You know what I mean? Like it was not deserved at all. It's never deserved, because police are there to
serve and protect.
Exactly. And I think that what's happening here is that there is failure in training.
Yeah, you think that that's the big issue? You think that the larger issue is that we're not training officers long enough?
I do feel that way. I remember having a conversation with my father because fun fact, I actually went and applied for the NYPD years ago. I was accepted, and I was on my way. And I remember my dad having a full-on conversation with me, basically that went something like, there was an incident where a female in Harlem she was a female cop in uniform, and she came across a man in the exit of Harlem Projects, and she came across this man, and he was smoking marijuana in the exit. And this was before marijuana in New York was legal. And she asked him to turn the blunt off, and he would not, and he continued to smoke. And she like kind of went up to him, and she was alone in the exit, and he basically like broke her face. And that was an incident where her face was all messed up, and she didn't touch him. She just kind of like reinforced like, hey, I'm an officer and you need to respect me. And this man, pretty much like what my dad was telling me, was that like her whole face was like done.
Yeah.
And he was afraid, because he felt like as a police officer, the more there's in the academy these days, they're just bringing them in. They're not giving proper training. Like there's no reason why a police officer should feel like they're about to be in a punching match with someone. there's no reason why a police officer should feel like they're threatened by someone else. You know, like it should be a little bit.
But I think to some degree that is the job, right? Like
Right.
that is kind of what you're signing up for to some degree, because like that's why police are necessary, to serve and protect. And you know, a lot of situations, you know, that cops or that need that intervention from the police are heightened emotional situations.
Very true.
Are things where there's aggressors and there's people that are you know, who knows, out of control, at a heightened emotional state, maybe have some issues that no one knows about, right? And I think that is why you need a lot of training and a lot of like mentally stable people in
Yes.
that position.
Yes.
That are kind of, you know, set up to some degree to deal with those situations, and
Right.
given the right resources, the right backup, and the right training, you know, mentally, physically, all of the above to handle those things, right?
Right.
But it's hard though, because I think that there's like, so you outlined that one situation about the lady cop, right? And
Yes.
and I think that it sucks because there is such polar opposites of things that we see of
Very true.
you know, police over like this situation over and above
Terrible.
asserting unnecessary force, using their
Authority.
position and
Yeah.
authority, abusing it to the end, you know, and that you see that the media puts that out there, everybody's watching that, and that creates a certain like relationship
And division.
yeah, that makes it so, you know, there seems to be no common ground. There
Right.
is even if it's just a routine traffic stop, there is a heightened emotional
Oh, yes.
like feeling during all of that.
Yes.
For both parties, I think.
For sure.
Right.
Because I've been, hey, I got my license not too long ago. I was stopped by a police officer and I was extremely nervous and scared,
Yeah.
to the point where you were my witness. I don't know why, but I felt so nervous and scared that I clicked my seatbelt off as if I was going to open the door and run. For what reason? I literally
like-
ran a red light, but it was like the second
like a
yellow
yellowish.
and then turned red. And I at first thought, like, I was like, oh my goodness, I just ran a red light. I was scared. I was nervous already. And then I was stopped by a police officer like 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think of, because of the division and what everything that's going on in this time frame right now in the world, I had to run. I was scared.
Yeah.
And that's awful that's how like my mentality thought, especially when my father was a great police officer.
Yeah.
He did things by the rules, and he was not, one person wasn't better than the other, and he wasn't better than anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, he saw a human for face value. He saw what it was, and he treated you accordingly, and he never was aggressive. And that was something that he kind of always like shared with me. He was like, I just think right now, Anissa, the way this world is, like, we're just bringing in these young, hot-headed humans, and we're training them so quick, and we're making sure they graduate, and then we're just putting them out there to the most like roughest, toughest like parts of New York. That's where I'm from. So like that's where, you know, in the projects and the areas where you have to be on guard. And he would, you know, some of his questions to me, even he asked me like during that process was like, what would you do if something like this happened? And sometimes I honestly was, I didn't know how to respond besides for like, well, if they hit me, like, what am I supposed to do? You know, like,
Yeah.
I'm also human too. But in this situation, uncalled for 100%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a hard,
Well, it is a hard balance, but obviously you see outliers of, or like you see, which seems very common actually at this point, situations where police are using excessive force.
Yes.
It's completely uncalled for. And, it does make you go, well, something needs to change. There needs to be a vetting process for putting people in those positions. There needs to be, obviously,
the cams aren't working. Those police cameras aren't working, because if they were working, you would think that would have not happened the way it did.
And those people need to go to jail, right? Like,
for sure.
They need to be held accountable for their crimes, just like anybody else.
Right. And from my understanding, some of those police officers were actually officers for violent crimes, they were in the task unit for
That's insane.
Violence. So it was what the? And here you are, this poor man now is gone, and now his family is hurt.
Grieving.
And here we go again, having to protest, having to feel these pains, having that division even more, And unfortunately, this is the most saddest thing. These are 5 Black police officers. And I feel damn, guys, for real, we're still hurting each other. It is the most saddest, most sickening footage. If don't watch it, I watched it.
I don't think that's the right message. I mean, if the mom,
that's true. It's just that for me,
we need to be aware.
We do need to be aware. But my heart was pretty crushed when I watched it, and that's why I'm saying don't watch it. If you're like me, and that's gonna affect you now for some time, it's don't watch it if it's gonna really affect you, because it is the most disgusting footage I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it's hard, but I think to some degree we got to be aware and affected so that we can make the change that's necessary, right?
You're right. And you're right about that. And you're right. And yeah,
because if we keep putting a blind eye or turning the other way, what's going to happen next week? What's going to happen next month?
Right.
And it's sad because there needs to be I think some sort of nationwide hashing program that really kind of addresses this stuff. That these things need to be the call for those changes.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Because it's one side is feeding the other. I remember talking to your dad and him saying there is so many cops that are out of control. There's people that I want to get out of this space because one, there's a lot of guys that are not playing the game the right way, aren't on the up and up, and they're in that scene daily, affecting the public, giving
police officers bad names,
a terrible name. Yeah. And also knowing, even as a good cop, you're going to work. And remember him talking about the situation that happened in Brooklyn. Two cops on beat, sitting in their whatever car, I forget the name of it, their police car or whatever, right behind their head, boom, boom, shot. With no warning, no sort of.
I mean, that's what happened with one of his friends. His own partner got shot. Boom. With no
not even a situation that's leading to that. Just okay. Here's a cop that has the uniform on. They need to go.
Yep.
I mean, that's an insane. I mean, you can't imagine waking up, putting on that uniform
and not being in fear
and not having some level of yo, it's me or them. You know what I mean?
And that is that's the saddest part. It's the saddest part because
that's I think that sometimes is the mentality rather than I'm going to go into my community that respects me.
I'm going to serve my community.
I respect and do the right thing by this position or whatever.
Yes.
So
yeah, I mean, I remember several years ago, with the whole Garner case of I can't breathe and all that stuff. I remember my father was an active police officer, and I was begging him, that it was time for him to stop.
Yeah.
I said, right now, everybody hates police officers and you need to stop. Like, and he's like, Anissa, there's people in this precinct that hate me because of the color of my skin. And it sucks because there's always that division in there. Like, my father was not a white man. He was Dominican and he was darker complected. And so like next to a more white officer, and, you know, depending on how many, you know, years, ranks and all that stuff, there was a little bit of turmoil within the whole police community with each other. And it's just so like sickening that it's not just a career where you can go in and serve and live and not, you know, like there was just so much like tension and all that stuff. And it's just like, but with this situation, uncalled for 100%.
Yeah.
There was like no one was provoked to beat him up like the way that they did. Like,
yeah, and you could definitely say that there was a reason why he would be scared and want to run away.
For sure.
He had legitimate reason to run, to want to get away from these assailant, like these, you know.
Yes. Like he literally says in that video, okay, guys, I'm on the ground. Look, I'm doing it. Like, okay, I'm doing it. Like, no, you know, like, please stop. Okay, why are you guys doing this to me? You know, like,
yeah.
To hear his calls for his mom, like for his last like breaths is like so sad. It's just like being a mom. That's like the worst thing that I could hear and see. And I could only imagine how, you know, this woman feels right now, you know, and the fact that she's asking people to protest in peace, there's like, wow, because I would be angry.
No, yeah. No, and I get that. I mean, I would say let's yeah, you would want to react in anger and really like, yeah, I don't know. It's heavy because it's just heavy, you know. Yes. It's hard to know how we can change this situation, right? Like,
because it seems like, well, there's a period where it kind of goes a little bit quiet and then it starts up again, and it's just getting more and more horrific with more time. And, you know, as time goes on, it's not getting any better.
Yeah, and I know that we didn't see all of the body cams or whatever, but I'll tell you, I'm happy and thankful to know that there's some of that footage
for sure
that's available, right? Because who knows before we had some of these cams and some of these things, what could have been going down, you know what I mean? So I think that maybe even stepping that up, adding regulations around those things to really amp up like the monitoring of the people that are supposed to be protecting us, right? You know?
Right.
So
yes, it's just, so that I didn't want to come on here and talk any heavy topics, but I just thought it was so important because like Tyre Nichols, it was really a thing where I was like, I want to say his name as many times as I can on this podcast today, because like that his life was taken way too short. He was only 29. He had a child. He had his whole life ahead of him. He went skateboarding. He was on his way to go skateboarding, according to his mother. Like he likes to watch the sun rise.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's very, very, very sad that that's what happened to him on his way. And, you know, the police officers concocting a whole story of like, oh, he's drunk. Meanwhile, he's just like passed out because they beat the crap out of him, you know? And it's just like, we need to stop. We're all humans. We need to be treated with respect. And I just, you know, it's just whether you're a cop or not, you know, like, let's start treating each other the right way. Like, this is unnecessary. It needs to come to an end. And I'm hoping that the more and more that hopefully it doesn't happen anymore. But if it continues to happen, obviously we need to change our training.
Well, I think that, it's almost inevitable that it's going to continue to happen because, I mean, as we've seen in the past couple of years, it's constant.
It
It's
is.
consistent, and
It
it's obviously a problem.
It really is.
It's a problem that needs some sort of issue. It needs some attention, right?
Yes.
So
for sure.
yeah. So it is some heavy stuff to talk about, but we need to bring attention
For sure.
to it, right?
Yes.
And that's from our little
perspective,
Yeah.
we're just talking about our own feelings about it and the topic. It's not an easy topic to talk about. We just wanted to like kind of share our opinions on it and just, bring more awareness to Tyre Nichols for this podcast. Just his life was taken and it's just the worst. And it makes me really, really sad. And it's kind of on my shoulders. So
yeah. And I think that because your dad was a cop, it does give you, there's like, you have like kind of like, it's a hard thing to think about because you can definitely think about, oh, my dad was in these type of situations.
For sure.
And like, how would he be acting? How would he, handle this type of stuff? Because I think that it's very easy, especially if you don't like, if you've had limited interactions with cops and not all of them have gone that well, and you keep seeing this stuff, it's easy to be like, screw them all.
Oh yeah.
They're all terrible, horrible people that are,
I mean, I had people mad at me because my father was a cop. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't, but it sucks because unfortunately the bad is outweighing the good at this time, because I know so many great police officers, and unfortunately those people are not being seen because of this terrible, disgusting display of officers who take their authority and they take their position and they think they can. And it's like, it makes me sad.
It is sad because that there's a lot of good people out there trying to do good in that position,
right,
that are being completely overshadowed by the bad. And, to some degree, it's rightfully so, because there needs to be something that's said about that. And, it just sucks because it's like, yeah, we got to get to a place where this isn't we don't say, oh, this is going to happen again.
Yes. Right.
We're going to see this again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
We got to get to a place where it's rare. And the people that are committing those acts and doing that on the job and in that space, they're done. Like, and they're super rare, and it's something that, it's like, dang, they really slipped through the cracks of our pretty solid system, rather than going, there's something going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
that needs to be tightened up,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But sorry guys that we came on here with this, but it's something that needs to be put out there, and we just wanted to share that information and just share what our feelings about it. But yeah I hate when we talk about topics like this because it always makes my heart break. No,
I hear you. 100%.
I just and I don't know where to be at. It's always it's like a delicate.
It's a delicate
topic
thing to talk about.
Yes. But I do have feelings and I want to share them. And
and I think that we really like to be in a place of like uplifting, empowering people, and feeling positive and doing positive things. And this doesn't necessarily give that same feeling, right?
No. But it's just something that needed to be put out there.
His family needs to be talked about. And like, I think it's good to, I think that it's hard. And I didn't really know that she said that, hey, go out there and watch the video to see what's going on.
Oh my goodness. She said, watch it.
Ugh.
She said, watch it, but watch it and don't become like enraged protesting, because that's not what we would want. That's not what he would want. That's not what we would want. My son was a good kid. Like, she's like, my son always called on me And then you see that video
in there, yeah.
and he's calling on her, and I'm like, I cannot, like, oh, you know, gets me angry. You know, I get into like this whole angry place, you know.
Yeah.
So
as a mother,
as a mom, and just
as a father, I mean, he had a child, you know,
like it's just very sad. It's sad when a life is taken that way, and but you know, if you guys have any, you know, opinions, or if you want to keep the conversation going, you guys could definitely comment in under our video. We can continue talking about this, but I think that for now, this is as far as we're going to go with this conversation, because they just released the body cam like on Friday. So like we're here on Monday. This is going to be a pre-recording, but we're here on Monday. So that's why it's kind of like been out there, and we don't know much. I think like 2 officers got bailed out.
Okay.
But I think, and all 5 of them lost their jobs. So
okay.
yeah, terminated. So, you know. Yeah, we
could continue the conversation and maybe share some resources in the comments, and try to.
If anyone has like resources, I don't know. I feel like a lot of police officers need a lot more training, to be quite honest. And I don't know. There's nothing that I can provide with that information, but you know, we can only hope and pray that it gets better. Yeah. You know, and stop killing the people of our community, guys. For real. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Meet the Others Podcast. We are on Instagram, Meet the Others Podcast, Facebook. We have our own Instagrams. It needs to be strong.
Choir Boy Dank.
Yes, and thank you for tuning in. And you know, till next time.
Till next time, guys. We'll talk soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Why Meet the Others Podcast? What's this about?
Why are we doing this thing?
Why are we doing this dang thing?
Who the F?
Do we even know what we're doing?
Certainly not.
Till I turn the ass, so they put my